We're following some major developments out of Georgia. A special grand jury there is investigating efforts by former President Trump and his allies to overturn the 2020 election results. Rudy Giuliani's legal team now says he is a target of the probe. Trump's former personal lawyer is expected to appear before the grand jury tomorrow. Another development involves South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham. A federal judge has ordered him to testify. Scott MacFarlane is following all of this for us out of Washington.
Good morning. Giuliani's lawyer confirms to CBS News the former mayor will appear before the grand jury tomorrow in Georgia. It's one of several accelerating investigations with some connection to the former president or his close confidants. Giuliani served as then-President Trump's personal lawyer in the weeks after the 2020 election, making unfounded claims of fraud and misconduct by Georgia election officials.
I don't have to be a genius to figure out that those votes are not legitimate votes.
Giuliani talked about the grand jury on his New York City radio show Monday.
They have now told me that I'm a target of their Atlanta investigation.
It means that the investigation has gathered enough evidence to alert the person that they may face an indictment, and that's serious.
Former President Trump has been under scrutiny for his own efforts to challenge the Georgia election results, including his call to Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger days before January 6. Trump has denied all wrongdoing.
Look, Brad, I have to find 12,000 votes.
Another Trump ally, South Carolina Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, asked a judge to block a subpoena from the Georgia grand jury amid questions about his own phone call to Georgia election officials. He argued he was doing his due diligence before voting to certify the election and should be shielded from having to testify. But the judge disagreed.
There are many things that they don't have to answer, but that's only for things that deal with their legislative duties, their official duties. It's not a get-out-of-jail-free card.
Graham is expected to appeal, but for now, he's scheduled to appear before that same grand jury next Tuesday, the 23rd. In a separate case, first reported by the New York Times, Trump Organization Chief Financial Officer Alan Weisselberg is expected to reach a plea deal with New York prosecutors in a tax fraud case.
All right, Scott MacFarlane, thank you very much. CBS News reporter Graham Cates is here with more on these investigations. Graham, good to see you. So Rudy Giuliani, now a target of the probe instead of just a witness. Scott mentioned he's going to be appearing behind closed doors in Atlanta tomorrow. What's changed?
As recently as a week ago in court, they were saying he was a material witness. In fact, his lawyers had been saying, we've been asking the DA, is he a target of this probe or is he just a witness? Because that's going to affect the way we advise him when he goes forward. And they haven't said that there was some big change in the last week that made them a target. They were just only informing his defense now because his actual testimony before the grand jury is coming up. And that's kind of like something you have to do before you go in there.
Graham, as he does get ready to testify, what do you expect Giuliani might say? Could it move the needle?
I don't know if we could say exactly what he'll say, but we know some of the things he's going to be asked about. He appeared before the Georgia legislature more than once, spreading some of the things we now consider misinformation about the election. He's kind of been a vocal proponent of election misinformation, and he was Trump's personal attorney at the time. And remember, way back in January, they identified Trump as the main focus of this investigation. It was spurred by that infamous phone call where Trump asked for more than 11,000 votes from Brad Raffensperger, the Secretary of State. So we know generally the things he's going to be asked about.
Let's talk about Senator Lindsey Graham. He's tried to get a judge to reject anything, any testimony, any appearance before a grand jury because he says he was just doing his due diligence as a United States senator in the lead up to the election and in the aftermath of the election. But what is the grand jury looking to hear from him?
So, for starters, there are at least 2 phone calls to that same Georgia Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, that have been acknowledged by both Lindsey Graham and Raffensperger. And those are the things he was saying that those calls were, he's invoked the speech and debate clause of the Constitution, which basically says legislative activities are protected from criminal investigation. And what the DA is saying, and actually what the judge ruled yesterday was, you know, there's a big difference between being a politician and performing your legislative duties, and the DA is saying that's what you were doing. You were playing politics, not legislating at that point. And the judge kind of signaled that she agreed. That's why she ordered him to appear next week. And they also said, broader than those calls, they just kind of described broader questions they wanted to ask him about his advocacy for Trump and his behavior after the election without going into great detail. And the judge said, we can't say, no, everything you did in that time period is part of your legislative duties. The DA hasn't even said exactly what they're going to ask you about. So how could you possibly say that? And Graham, of course, said, I'm going to appeal this as far as I can. So right now, the hearing is scheduled for next week, but we don't know what's actually going to happen.
Graham, what more can you tell us about the New York tax case involving Alan Weisselberg, former President Trump's chief financial officer at the Trump Organization?
So I have from a member of the legal team that was kind of part of the negotiations that he's expected to enter a guilty plea. The terms of it aren't exactly clear, but we're looking at 5 months of incarceration. And again, right now, a lot can change by the time this happens on Thursday, if it really does happen. And it was emphasized to me that this agreement doesn't involve cooperating against Trump or the Trump Organization. This is just pleading guilty to the charges against him, which are roughly not paying taxes on some $1.7 million worth of corporate perks.
So this question as to whether or not his deal with the government has anything to do with the former president, essentially what we're seeing here is that he's willing to go to jail for 5 months rather than cooperate with the government on what he knows about the actions of the former president.
Yeah, and that really jives with what we know about Alan Weisselberg. He has been part of this company since before Donald Trump ran it. He was there when Fred Trump ran it. And he's been really Donald Trump's right-hand man in terms of financing at the company for almost 4 decades. And so, if you expect someone like that to cooperate against him, or and by the way, maybe there's nothing to cooperate against him for too. Mm-hmm. But this, in some ways, I don't think it should be considered that big of a surprise. He's been there for so long.
Yeah,
it's a lot to unpack. Sounds like you'll be busy. Graham, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.